This video is going to be a rundown of Express, just a basic introduction to make sure everyone's up to speed. Those of you who've done Express in the past, I recommend you watch this video, and those of you who have not done Express in the past, I also recommend you watch this video. It'll just be a good sample of, hey, this is what it's like to build an Express project. We're not going to go into too much depth, but it will be a good overview to make sure we're all on the same page for this. First thing we're going to need to do is make sure Node is up to date, so I'm going to download version 20.8. Doesn't have to be 0.8, it has to be 20 though. Make sure you have a version 20. Alright. Next. Make sure it's all there. Next. Automatically install the necessary tools. Click next, install. And we go through the install process. Takes a second, and that'll be done. Once that's done, it'll give us another minute or so of additional stuff. In the meantime, I'm going to close that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Express as that download goes. So that's been installed successfully. Perfect. It brings up this, which is just asking about the build tools. All these build tools are just the additional things that Express needs to run. On Mac, that Node needs to run. On Mac, it'll probably do this as well. So this is just automatically going to run it. We don't need to worry about that. What is Express? Express is a tool used to build web back-end web servers, like just websites. It's the same thing as Flask, for those of you who've done this in Python before, but it's just the Node.js, meaning that it's written in JavaScript, or sometimes there's a version of it you can write in TypeScript. For now, we're focused on JavaScript, and we're focused on Express. It's going to install the latest version of Python and do a few other things. In the meantime, we start by creating an empty folder, which I'm calling Express Catch-up. And I recommend you put this in like inside a hard drive at a very base level. So I've got my hard drive, so I've got my PC, I've got my hard drive, and then I've got a projects folder. And then right in that projects folder, I put my Express Catch-up project. We don't want it to go too deep because that will cause issues. Perfect. It's done running. I'm going to now open this folder in Visual Studio Code. Make sure you have Visual Studio Code installed, just to make sure I have access to Node. I'm going to open terminal. I'm going to go npm init. And sorry about the mic. This is going to create a basic Node project. We're going to leave it at version 1. We're going to leave everything at the basics. We're not going to add any details right now. There's a new major version of npm, so I'm going to update that as well. So npm i-g npm at 10.2. Oops, 10.2. 2.0. Sorry about that. In the meantime, while that's running, we're going to get started. So I've updated. This is what happens when you're using a computer for a while. You got to update all the basic things. Make sure that all of your tools are up to date as well. So I've got my package.json file. Right now it's got nothing in it aside from some very basic details. It says that my main file is my index.js file, so I'm going to create an index.js file. It also says that my test script is currently just literally print out that there's no test script. So we're going to deal with that. We're going to remove that, and we're going to say that this is going to be, we're actually going to delete our test script entirely. We're going to create a start script. So start, and it's going to be node index.js. So this will, when I do npm run start, it'll tell Node to run the index.js, and then we'll do a test script as well, and the test script is going to say nodemon index.js. Alright, so for now we've got two. We've got a start script and a test script. Don't worry too much about what those are. We'll go through them a little bit more. Now, we need to install a few things. The first thing we need to install is we need to install Express. So we do npm I express. Now, when I do npm install, it'll add a node modules folder. And I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit so it's cleared, so it's easier for y'all to see. Hopefully that makes the video a little bit easier. Sorry if it wasn't that great before. Alright, so we've got the node modules folder. Node modules folder's got a bunch of stuff in it, but doesn't matter. What matters over here is dependencies express. And that says, hey, anyone who uses our project is going to get this Express project. Is going to need to also download Express. Package locks is the exact version of all of the packages that Express needs. If you're not sure about that, there should be a video. If there's not, we'll talk about it more in depth. Now what I need is a very basic Express. I need a very basic Express.js app, so I'm going to just going to look up Express.js. We're going to do getting started, the hello world example. So I'm over here. I want to express this hello world example, and I'm just going to go over here and copy and paste this. We'll go through this line by line. Imports Express. I'm going to update this to a much later version, but it doesn't change anything. Imports Express. Yep, it sets a port, and then it just says, hey, if you ever do a get from the index page, it returns hello world. So we're going to do npm run start, and it's not. Let's take a look at this. I did not save my index file, and that's why I didn't do anything. Now that I saved my file, it's actually listening at port 3000. So what does that mean? That means if I open my browser and I go to localhost 3000, and it says hello world. Now if I change, I'm going to leave these both open over here, so I have that on that side and that on that side. And if I inside over here, if I changed hello world to hello space and I save and I refresh my page, nothing happens. But if I go into the bottom over here, I'll move my face out of the way, but if I look over here at the bottom, actually no, let's switch sides so this is easier to see. If I go over here on the bottom, I go Control C, right? I cancel that, and after that, what I do is I go start it again. Now it says, hey, it's listening at port 3000 again, and now if I refresh, it says hello space. Why does it say hello space? Because I changed it in here and I restarted. Now, the problem is that we don't want to have to keep restarting. So what do? We do npm I nodemon. Oh, actually, whoops. Yep, I don't want to do npm I-d nodemon. And I'm going to go into my package and make sure, yep, perfect. The -d makes it a dependency. Makes it a dev dependency. So if you look over here, it says dev dependencies nodemon. What is nodemon? Nodemon is a tool that allows us to refresh without having to, it causes the project to automatically reload. So if you remember before over here when we had our package, we had the test. So now I'm going to do npm run test. And now nodemon is listening. So if I leave it at space, it's going to, so if I refresh my page is still there. If I change space to earth and I save, notice nodemon reloaded. So if I refresh my page, it actually changes without me having to worry about it. So this way we can keep writing our program and nodemon will automatically change whenever this changes. Now, what I'm going to do just to give us more space is I'm going to lower this. I'm not going to close it because if I close it, that cancels the program. I'm just going to lower this It's going to go away, but it's not actually gone, and the program's still running. Now, Express turns Express, app creates an app, get gives me a single home page, and then app.get is setting up the get function. So those of you remember our basic methods, we've got get, post, right? Update, delete, a bunch of stuff. And what happens is whenever we do that, we have the path that we do, and then we have the function that gets run at that point. So in this case, Express is going to run this function. It'll feed in a request and a response, and it'll give me back a specific response, and it'll do response.send, and it'll send back this hello earth string. We want to make this a lot more complex. We're going to create a very simple app. We're going to create an app with we're not going to do any fancy things, like we're not going to do any templates right now. We're just going to create we're just going to create 2 little pages. We're going to do app.get is going to be for / the base one, and that's going to do request response. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to say when someone tries to access our thing, we're going to do response.redirect to /home. So now whenever anyone accesses our app, they're going to go to home, and we do app.get /home. And here what we're going to do is we're going to say with a request response. Here what we're going to do is we're going to do response.return response.json. And this is what we're going to send timestamp, and we're just going to send a moment in time. Timestamp, and this is just going to equal time dot question. That's what it is, it's date. Timestamp is just going to equal new date dot get UTC milliseconds. To UTC string. Timestamp, and then we're going to have a message, and the message is just going to be you are home. So what am I doing? All I'm doing now is I'm just setting it up so that when someone accesses my website, they immediately go to the home page, and that home page, they get redirected to home. So from local, they're going to redirect to home, and then home is going to send back a JSON object. So if I refresh, all of a sudden now you see I'm at home, and you see I've got this JSON object. The JSON object has the exact time of when I'm recording this video, and just a message that says you are home. The reason why I'm doing this is it's a bit of a complex example, but if you can follow it, you'll get a good idea of the fundamentals of. It's it might be a little bit more of a complex example, but when you take a look at it, you get a very good idea of what's going on for Express. So I'm going to spend a minute going through these. So we've already spoken about the basics. Now I've got this response. Now this response is an object that we can start manipulating and adding things to, and we're going to spend a little bit of time in class going through that in more depth, but this is a very basic example of, hey, I do a get. The response has this redirect function, so redirect lets me send somewhere else. The response.json sends back a JSON object, And what the JSON object sends is, in this case, I'm just sending a timestamp and a little message. I should point out that this is actually raw JSON, but because I use Firefox, it automatically reads it as pretty JSON for me. JSON is something you should all be familiar with at this point, so I'm not going to go into too much depth in the video, but if you have questions, please ask in class, and I will happily explain it in more depth. Right. Now, I'm going to stop here, and the next video I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through a completed JSON, a more elaborate Express example that I've already built up. So this video is just going to be an introduction, and the other one's going to be of walking you through a completed project or a near complete project.